Joining us now is the chairman of the Subcommittee on Government Weaponization and the House Judiciary Committee, Chairman Jim Jordan from the great state of Ohio. Congressman, good to see you. Was it a little bit ironic that Democrats are trying to censor RFK during a government censorship hearing?
Committee tried, ironically, to censor Bobby Kennedy's testimony as he laid out his experience with social media censorship.
You can't write this stuff. Joining us now is the chairman of the Subcommittee on Government Weaponization and the House Judiciary Committee, Chairman Jim Jordan from the great state of Ohio. Congressman, good to see you. Was it a little bit ironic that Democrats are trying to censor RFK during a government censorship hearing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think everyone in the room laughed when we talked about that, but it was true. But it's consistent with these guys. Remember, they tried to censor RFK, a tweet he put out, that Robert Kennedy put out on the 23rd of January, 2021. So 37 hours. There's a 1 a.m. email sent from the White House Executive Office of the Presidency to Twitter. In that email, at 1 in the morning, 37 hours into this administration, they were trying to take down, had one of his tweets taken down. So think about this. They're trying to censor their Democrat presidential primary opponent the third day on the job, for goodness sake. They've been at it, and they continue today with the Democrats on the committee.
Congressman Jordan, watch as Democrats try to shut Kennedy down again and remove him.
Why would the Republican leadership and the committee majority give a hearing and a platform to the witnesses today, specifically to Mr. Kennedy, a man who has recently claimed that COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people?
I move that we move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable anti-Semitic and anti-Asian comments as recently as last week.
This is how Bobby Kennedy clapped back at that failed attempt.
I've spent my life in this party. I've devoted my life to the values of this party. Censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for.
Congressman, I heard some conservative commentators say it was a mistake for the committee to call Bobby Kennedy because of the controversy that he brings with him. After today, what do you say to them?
Yeah, I think this was an example of why we have a First Amendment. I disagree with what Mr. Kennedy said last week, but I'm not for censorship. And frankly, the Democrats used to be the party that also embraced the First Amendment. My good friend was there. He's the campaign chair for the Kennedy campaign, Dennis Kucinich. Good friend. He's far left. He thinks I'm crazy conservative, but we're friends. He was at our daughter's wedding. I mean, he's the kind of guy, let's have the debate, let's see who wins, and then let's move on to the next issue. That's how it's supposed to work in America. And if you get away from that, and Mr. Kennedy talked about this particularly in his written testimony, about how it's so important you have a robust First Amendment where you have debate, because if you don't settle things with debate, it gets scary. It gets real scary. And as he said in the committee today, when you have people in government limiting speech, it never winds up in a good place. It always leads to tyranny. And that was his point, I think. So this is the real concern we have. And now this pattern of big government, big tech, big media, legacy media working together to suppress speech and suppress the freedom of the press. We had another good witness there today, Emma Jo Morris, who was the one who first, October 14, 2020, had the first story about the Hunter Biden laptop, and that story was suppressed. So that's a scary environment to go to, but that's exactly where the left now wants to take us.
By the way, Dennis Kucinich, also a friend of mine, left-winger. I don't agree with that guy on anything, but, you know, you can debate with him, and he's a good human being.
And the FBI told Twitter, an FBI official told Twitter that that was Hunter Biden's laptop, and they censored it anyway. And another FBI official said, no more comment, no more comment.
Good point, because now the FBI, who was, again, like you just mentioned, saying the issues to Twitter about the laptop, now they want a new headquarters, Congressman. You know about this, moving out outside the D.C. suburbs. It would cost the taxpayers $3.5 billion. Is this something, with all the shenanigans at the FBI, that you guys are going to approve?
Of course not. That's ridiculous. There's no way we're going to treat the American taxpayer that way. The Speaker's been clear about this as well. That is not going to happen with Republicans in control of the House of Representatives. To your point, Dagan, that was real important. The day Imogen Morris's story comes out in the New York Post about the emails on the Hunter Biden laptop, October 14, 2020, that very day, our government, the FBI, was meeting with Twitter, and then later that day had a meeting with Facebook. In the first meeting with Twitter, someone from Twitter asked the FBI, is the laptop story real? Is it real? And the response was, yes, it is. And then quickly, a lawyer from the FBI said, no further comment. Later in the day, when they met with Facebook, they got their story straight. They got together, had deliberations, the FBI did. When Facebook brings up the same question, because this is a huge story, brings up the same question on the same day again, brings up that same question, asks the same question, Ms. Demlow, the head of the Foreign Influence Task Force, the lady we deposed on Monday, she said, no comment. The FBI knew it was real. They knew what was on it was authentic. They knew it was real, and yet they let the tech community believe that it was a Russian information op. And of course, that story was suppressed, wasn't allowed to be shared. I mean, it was as wrong as it gets. And it was just weeks before, as we all know, the most important election we have. Election for President of the United States.
It's called election interference. And this is the road that you are still heading down. Yesterday marked a major day in the investigation into Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's business dealings. The American people finally getting to hear from not one but two whistleblowers directly, but folks at home are left to wonder what is next. I do know that House Oversight will hear from Hunter Biden's partner, Devin Archer, next week, but what else?
Right. Well, that's an important deposition that we want to happen now. It keeps getting moved, keeps getting rescheduled. We'll see. I hope it does happen. I know Chairman Comer is pushing hard for that deposition to take place. Of course, we had today Senator Grassley finally released to the American people the largely unredacted 1023 form about this confidential human source and his conversations he had with the foreign national who gave a bunch of money to the Biden. So that's out there as well. But I think from our angle, from the Judiciary Committee's perspective, the changing story of U.S. Attorney David Weiss. He told me on June 7th, oh, I got complete authority to charge where I want, when I want, and whatever charges I want to bring. And then 23 days later on June 30th of this year, just last month, he said, well, actually, I don't. I'm limited to my geographic U.S. Attorney's District. Now, what happened in between those two dates? The two whistleblowers who testified publicly yesterday had their transcripts from their private testimony released on June 22nd. And suddenly David Weiss says, wait a minute, I better change my story, because Mr. Shapley said David Weiss told him and 5 other people in a meeting that he did not have ultimate authority, even though the Attorney General said he did not have ultimate authority, asked for special counsel designation, and Main Justice turned him down.
You know, Congressman, I served with you in the House, and a lot of Americans want you to be the Department of Justice. They want you to be the FBI. They want you to be the IRS, but you're not. You're a legislative branch. You have certain tools that you're using. Right. But really, what is the net outcome that you want? To expose what happened and put pressure on the FBI and the DOJ to actually take action on crimes that were committed? Or what's the end goal here?
I think there are 3 things. One, use the appropriation process like you referenced before. No money is going to be going for this new headquarters. Other things we can do to limit how American tax dollars are spent, particularly from these agencies that we think have been turned against the American people. 2, FISA's up for reauthorization. No way that gets reauthorized in its current form. We Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, I think Republicans, and frankly some Democrats, I think are willing to work with us to stop that reauthorization in its current form. And then 3rd, the Speaker's been clear about this. If we have to move to an impeachment inquiry phase of our investigation, he's willing to do that, but we still have to gather facts and see if that's where this takes us.
But impeach who?
Well, the Speaker in that situation is talking about the folks at the Justice Department, the Attorney General, based on this idea that their story keeps changing. And the story that hasn't changed, the testimony that's been consistent, is Gary Shapley and Mr. Ziegler, who testified. They've been straight, and they're as credible as I've ever seen whistleblowers who've come forward.
Right. If these 2 IRS agents, as nobly as they testified yesterday under oath, can't Merrick Garland testify under oath, and others?
Yep.
Congressman, country music star Jason Aldean performing in your home state tonight as liberals cry over his new song and music video. Listen to what some folks said outside of his bar in Nashville, what they had to say about it.
He's just saying small town values, we're going to take care of each other.
I think we all can have our equal opinions and not be offended.
I don't think it had anything to do with race or anything. I think this song was just a very basic song about living in a small town.
Either it's freedom of speech or it's not. One way or the other. We don't get it both ways.
What do you think?
Yeah. The cancel culture will stop at nothing. They'll go after any. This is what's so frightening. They'll go after Jason Aldean. They'll go after Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They'll go after Elon Musk. They'll go after Dianne Feinstein. I remember a couple years ago, the mob said Dianne Feinstein said something like 20, 30 years ago that they thought wasn't appropriate. So the Dianne Feinstein Elementary School in somewhere in California, they're going to change the name, and they did. And this is a liberal iconic senator for the Democrats. So the mob knows no bounds. That's why the hearing that took place today, focusing on protecting the First Amendment, your right to speak, your right to talk, and not be harassed for doing so, especially from your government, this is so important, because when the government's doing it, that allows the cancel culture mob to get stronger and more forceful. That is a huge problem. It's one of the reasons we have this select committee and are focusing so much on this particular issue.
Jim Jordan, a man of many talents, taking Aldean back to the hearings in the House in the fight that you have for free speech. I love it. Thank you for joining us. And listen, love watching you.
Maybe we should bring him in sometime.
Yeah, we should. Yeah. Exactly. That would be great.
You guys keep it up. Take care.
We'll cover that one. Jim Jordan, thank you.